All right, let's do this last time. All right, so this is Detroit Mithras, episode 8. There was a 8 and 9 that I was already, I guess I tried to upload it, but it didn't really go up for some reason. Anyway, um, this is Matthew Brand, your host, and let me give you a little talk about red flag laws. So if you're not familiar, the intention of red flag laws is so that in case somebody thinks a person is a threat to themselves or others, someone close to you may call the police, and then a judge can send out basically a warrant or order to have the guns confiscated until the person can be investigated further. This sounds to some people okay, right? People who aren't Second Amendment activists, people who don't have guns, people who aren't that familiar with the law and the way it works. This might sound good to them, but the problem is anytime you have a preventative law, a lot of rights get violated, and people don't always understand or know that, right? This is tricking a lot of people who aren't familiar with them. For example, you have people who they have a no-knock warrant, and someone bursts in the door, and someone who wasn't doing anything wrong gets shot because they're very resistant to having their rights violated. A lot of people, what we have in America sometimes is a big lack of empathy, right? Because I'm not going through it because it never happened to me. It's the other person's fault, right? Obviously, they're doing something wrong. I don't have a problem with police, or I don't have an issue, so it has to be their fault. Or if I was in that situation, I would have acted differently, so it's their fault. I hate that crap. Basically, whenever you have your rights violated or whatever, you're having people getting arrested for no good reason. 1 in 3 people, that's once again, 1 in 3 people have a criminal record in this country. 1 in 3 people have guns in this country. I know that's a minority of people, right? But it's a very large minority of people on both ends of the spectrum. Then you have, why would you want to increase the number of people who have less opportunities, less availability for jobs, because people sometimes don't understand the harshness of having a record. And because they don't have a record, they are very accusatory, right? It's that person's fault. They were stupid. They were dumb. They were sloppy. They did something wrong. It's their fault. But a lot of the times people get arrested is because their rights are being violated. They're not hurting anybody. They're not hurting any friends or family. What they do on their time and their business is to pursue their happiness or to enjoy themselves or whatever is being made criminal. Let's say you're driving, you didn't break any laws or whatever, but the police pull you over, right, for doing nothing wrong. And after they pull you over, they decide they don't like you, so they give you a ticket because you have an air freshener sitting in your windshield, right? They can do that. And a lot of people be like, well, just don't have an air freshener sitting in your windshield. Okay, but a lot of people don't even know that that's a law, right? Because they'll call it, distraction or whatever. Policemen can be that petty, or they can just make something up. And the people who have no empathy for it don't really care. They'll be like, oh, you're just lying because you don't like the police or whatever. So whenever you have somebody who's like, I'm not going to let the police violate my rights, that's illegal. You have a bunch of people, well, why don't you just do what the police tell you to do? Why don't you just go along? Because the more you let your rights be violated, the more people who allow their rights to be violated, the less rights you have in general. And that's always a bad thing. And with red flag laws, a lot of innocent people can end up dying from that, which defeats the whole purpose of it in general, right? Because let's say you want somebody, you're worried somebody might commit suicide. And you call the police, because you think they might have a gun. So the police go in, but they don't go in and just knock and say, hey, how you doing? When you have a red flag law order, what you might get is a no-knock warrant where the police break down the door, tackle someone to the ground, put a gun to their head or whatever. And if the person keeps resisting, the police just decide to shoot them. What then? Then you just defeated the entire purpose of stopping someone. And then let's say the person gets back out. What's to stop them from committing suicide in a different manner? And a lot of times what they say is, if people try to commit suicide, well, they only try to commit once or whatever, and then they usually never commit it again. But when you commit it with a gun, most likely you're going to die, so you don't get that second chance. That's not entirely true. That's what you call the skewed information or the skewed logic. What you have is a lot of people who try to commit suicide are successful at it if they use a gun. Yes, that's true. Then you have a lot of people who commit suicide for attention. And I'm sorry, they don't die for the attention, but they commit attempted suicide, right? It gets registered as attempted suicide because they want attention. It's very hard to get help, mental help in this country. It's unfortunate. And if if you do feel you have mental issues or whatever, I encourage people to go and seek help, whatever the best help may be. But only the most severe people, and sometimes only the most severe with money, are going to find a way to get medical attention in this country. We have an issue with that. So sometimes people who feel they need the medical attention but are getting denied or getting ignored or getting pushed away or passed to the side, they're not getting it. So they get more dramatic in their actions until they get it. They're acting out. It's actually human to act out when your needs aren't being met. So they have a need, an emotional need is not being met. So now they're acting out. And when they act out and try and commit this fake suicide, let's say they cut their wrists or whatever. Now they finally get the attention. Now family members, people close to them are finally paying attention. But for some people, that attention comes too late. Because no one really, it's a tough thing to deal with. A lot of people avoid it. They rather leave it to the professionals, or they can't understand. And once again, we come back to that lack of empathy. Oh, this person's just being mopey. Oh, I don't understand what's wrong with this. Oh, this person's just sour or whatever. And they don't understand because they're not in the position. They're not that person. It's not always a chemical imbalance. I'm not saying that it isn't sometimes, but sometimes it's not. And sometimes it's a life situation, and sometimes drugs can help, but sometimes drugs aren't going to do anything about somebody who lives alone, is alone, doesn't have any friends, doesn't have any family, nobody lives around them. So what do? They get sick of it all and commit suicide. There's not even anybody around to call, to issue like a red flag law order. That's probably why they committed suicide in the first place. So that's what you have with that, and people who actually do fully commit suicide. But then you have other people who are just vindictive, and they're going to call, and they're going to face absolutely no consequences. Police may get shot. The person may definitely, that they got called on may definitely get shot. And what happens then? Then somebody innocent die for no reason whatsoever. That's what happens when your rights get violated. I advocate, if you live in Michigan, if you hear this, or anywhere in the United States, and you hear about these red flag laws, I speak up against it, or donate to somebody who does speak up against it, or just spread the word, whatever. This is the problem we have when rights are violated. People die. Innocent people die. When you try to create preventative measures, you either have innocent people die or people's lives are ruined for no reason. Usually it's the latter. Usually you don't have someone who dies. Usually you have someone whose life gets absolutely ruined for relatively no reason, and no one is held accountable for it. Perhaps in the afterlife. But when you talk about police, a lot of police it's not that police always shoot innocent people or there's all these cases of police brutality. If you just took the cases of, police killing someone for no apparent reason, you wouldn't get too many. You get a very, very small percentage of murder, right? You get a very, very small percentage of arrests. It just doesn't happen very often. And I'm saying this as a black person. You don't get a lot of police, on civilian assaults even. What's more common is someone's life getting completely ruined on the word of a police officer. That's what's most likely, or more likely. You get someone who gets arrested over something petty, over something that might not even be true, a ticket that could be the straw that broke the camel's back, just all kinds of stuff. Their insurance goes up to the point where they can't afford it. Just little things over a mistake, over something dumb, and the police can just decide, right? It's all up to the police because you don't have rights on the road. It's all up to police because you've got very, very little things going for you. Even if you haven't drank, you'd be surprised what could register in a breathalyzer. Even if you didn't drink, even if you weren't high when you were driving, a police can decide that they want you to go to jail. The police can decide that they don't like you. And now your life is messed up because of what they're going to charge you with afterwards. They can just say, hey, you're resisting arrest. Guess what? People have a fight or flight response. If you're not familiar with that thing, some people fight, some people flee, some people freeze. That's common. All three of those are common. But let's say a police grabs you and your natural reaction is to tug away. Now you're effed because the police can say you were resisting arrest. Even it's not that it's so common that the police will always shoot you, but it does definitely happen too. Let's say you shut down when you get yelled at and you have all these guns in your face. You shut down. So all your next movements are going to be out of habit, right? A mixture of habit and a mixture of what the police is yelling at you to do, right? Yelling over all your habits and your adrenaline and all that. You have all this adrenaline pumping, so you're working off of habit. And now because you're working off of a habit, you might accidentally do something that the police doesn't like, and then they choose to shoot you or, once again, tase you, say you're resisting arrest, whatever, pepper spray you, tackle you, all this stuff, and then they are not going to be held accountable. That's what happens when you have less rights. I'm not saying that police shouldn't have rights, but even think of it this way. Even if a police was intentionally trying to kill you for absolutely no reason, beating the hell out of you, if you attack them back in self-defense, if you killed a police officer in self-defense, someone who was trying to freaking murder you just because they didn't like you, what do you think is going to happen? You think you're going to, is going to be treated like they were a civilian because you're in the right? No. Some places have a thing where they can reduce it to manslaughter. But for the most part, a policeman is going to walk away, even if they get arrested, right? Even if they do get punished. Odds are, you die, but it's going to be an uphill battle to get that police officer punished. That is the problem we have in this country when rights are taken away. Don't vote for red flag laws. Don't try to let people trick you into feeling like they are some noble, benevolent way to help out others and to get people to save people from terrorist attacks or whatever. They're not. They are not. They are just another way to pull the rope in closer. I don't know if you've ever heard the idea, like the way you break in the horses, you let it roam, and then you pull the rope a little tighter each day. That's what all this is. It's a way to pull the rope a little tighter around your rights. They don't want you having rights because this country is going to try and do some really like the country will sometimes pass something or do something that's really harmful or really hurtful, and certain areas aren't going to tolerate that if they have a way to fight back. And the country, like politicians, know that. So if they can find a way to reduce your rights, and become more oppressive, slowly, a little bit at a time, then when that time does come, you won't have the means to do anything about it, because those times do happen. It's happened multiple times in American history, in world history, all across the world. It's happened. Some people just we've had a long extended credit of comfort in America. But eventually the credit card gets depleted, right? I'm not talking about the national debt. I'm just talking about in general. Our comfort right now is on credit. It's been running for a long time, but somebody's got to eventually pay the piper, and that's starting to happen. We've had pensions get, government pensions that were common. They're not taken away. We've had a lot of benefits in certain jobs now get taken away. We've had jobs that were very viable and still could be viable decades ago. They're not obsolete, but we've made them obsolete just by the way we've set our system up, right? Like one nurse might do the exact same work that a nurse did years ago, but that doesn't mean that the nurse is more valuable. We've just made more requirements out of that nurse. And now, and then, okay, it's an LPN. Now you have to be RN. No, okay, RN's not good enough. Now you have to be, the next level up. And they keep doing that. They keep requiring more and more and more, which means people get to do less and less and less to get out of the situations that they're in. We should never have that. That is a problem. When people get older, they should be comfortable. You should be able to work a job that, 40-hour job at pretty much any wage. I don't care if it's minimum wage, higher wage, or whatever. You should be able to do that. The problem is people are thinking, well, if that's not happening, then the issue is we need more government interference. But no. What they're doing is when you give somebody one thing, you have to take the right away from somebody else. So now you've taken business owners' rights away. And now all these people who are small business owners, the vast majority of the businesses you drive past aren't Amazon. They aren't Walmart. They aren't these huge corporations that are just doing so fantastic they can afford to pay whatever you feel like. Yes, at the biggest areas where you see a huge mall, in these towns that run on these kind of things like malls and stuff, yeah, you'll have some big corporations that are lined up. You'll see a Bath and Body Works near a Sally's, near a Walmart, near whatever. But when you keep looking closer, when you drive around the vast majority of towns and cities and areas, these are small businesses owned by your local people who are trying to make a buck just like you. And the better they do, the better you do. But now even these bigger businesses are closing down. Who's winning? Really? And everybody likes to blame it on, oh, well, it's online. It's all the online stuff. It's the online stores. It's the online. Not really. There are some things that are more convenient to just go into a shop and buy, but you can't afford it because the person has all this red tape before they even get to paying the person that works for them. All these laws, all these things that we say is to make people safer, but really is making the quality of life worse. Keep that in mind. And that's honestly what Magnum Creed was about. That, little emphasis on the Second Amendment, but that's really what this channel and some of the stories I write or the articles I write are about. So if you like this little audio article, please like it, share it, whatever you do. It's not, the point is I just want people to hear it so they can form their own opinions. And an educated opinion is much better than something where, and I encourage you to always look on both sides of everything. Don't take my word for it. Look on both sides of every situation. If someone wants to propose something, always look on both sides of the argument. Right now, what we have an issue is people aren't looking on both sides of the argument. They only look on one side of the argument. And they take clips that people who are targeting them push towards them, right? Certain people target them, and they have clips, right? Let's say you like Fox or whatever, and you keep watching Fox on YouTube. Well, YouTube's going to show you more stuff from Fox, and Fox is very skewed. Same with CNN. If you like CNN and you listen to that stuff, you're only going to see what CNN wants you to see. So unless you purposely go out your way to look at both sides, you're going to kind of have this very skewed opinion or, at least you're going to have people severely trying to skew your opinion. Just keep that in mind. Anyway, I hope you have a blessed day, and peace out.